Week in Sports Hotline, the play-by-play announcer for Duke University baseball and women's basketball, Chris Edwards. Chris, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, my friend. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, thanks for coming on. Chris, let's bring you back a couple of months ago. I would say roughly 2 months ago. Duke baseball is just having an incredible season. They're 12-4. I think they had just lost to Davidson, but they came off a series win against Florida State, I believe, at home. And then all of a sudden, the next thing you hear is that the season's been canceled due to the coronavirus. What was your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, I think initially it was just kind of shocked. I don't think anybody really expected it. You're right. We came off that loss to Davidson on that Tuesday night. I think it was March 12th, March 13th, something like that. And you could just kind of see it building a little bit. Lost to Davidson, game is over, got an email saying Duke was going to extend spring break by a week. So you said, okay, well, no big deal. I don't think that's going to affect our upcoming series against North Carolina, which is going to be in a couple of days. And then the next day is when things started to kind of unravel a little bit. You saw Rudy Gobert get tested positive and come down with the coronavirus, and that was sort of what started the whole thing of everything getting shut down. And by Thursday morning, everything was off, and I think we were all wondering, okay, where do we go from here? And after the initial shock and maybe the first week or two, you started to settle into a new routine, and whatever this new routine is. And I think we're all just kind of hoping now that we can get back on the field and get ready to go when the fall cranks up, and hopefully by the time that basketball and baseball for me get here in the winter and the spring, things are back to some semblance of normal.
Right. Now, explain to our listeners who may not know all the ins and outs about not just baseball, but college sports in general, but we're talking a little baseball here. But tell them how the cancellation of a senior, for a senior class that is playing baseball, how does that affect those seniors, especially the ones who are looking to possibly showcase themselves senior year to get into the Major League Baseball draft?
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit different this year, too, because the Major League Baseball draft is only going to be 5 rounds. They announced that earlier this week, which is another issue in and of itself, I think. But from a senior standpoint, it's tough because this is, in theory, your last chance to showcase to the scouts, hey, I can do this. I can be a professional baseball player. And now with the season wiped away, these scouts are having to go on what they've seen from these guys for the first 2 or 3 years on campus. And some guys, I think of a couple of our guys that were having red-hot starts to the season that had a chance maybe to improve their draft stock, to go a little bit higher in the draft, and now maybe they're not going to get drafted at all. I think the good news is that the NCAA has granted everyone an extra year of eligibility because of this in terms of spring sports athletes, so the seniors could come back. It's up to each individual school if they're going to pay the senior athletes to come back, because as you know, college baseball only allows 11.7 scholarships per roster, so it depends. So coaches now have to finagle the financial aspect of it, because you have all these kids now coming in that you signed that are probably not going to get drafted now because, as we said, the draft is only 5 rounds, versus these seniors that are now going to come back. So let's say the seniors do come back. That's great. They have an extra year of eligibility. Well, in the eyes of the professional scouts, these kids are now 1 year older, and because the seniors are now a year older, that's going to hurt their draft stock for 2021 because maybe their skills have diminished in the eyes of the scouts a little bit. And so now the seniors have to pick, okay, do I come back to school or do I try to sign a professional contract, $1,000? I have a rock and a hard place for these seniors.
Now, you were talking about, and I'm glad you did, you hit on a little bit about the draft going from 40 rounds down to 5 rounds. So basically, you're losing 35 rounds of the draft in Major League Baseball. Not only tell me what your perspective on that is, what do you need 40 rounds to judge talent?
Probably not, no. But think about it like this. Think about were drafted after the round that have gone on to be Hall of Famers, that have gone on to be Cy Young Award winners. Think about the guys that round. Even last year, I think there were 60-something guys that after the 10th round last year made over six figures in terms of a signing bonus. So no, you don't need 40 rounds to judge talent, but you need more rounds to fill all the minor league clubs, this is something I think the commissioner has wanted to do for a while, is to minimize the number of minor league teams. Conversation of cutting 40 or 41 minor league franchises, and now the commissioner has an easy way to do it because the draft is only they can cut in minor league baseball, and now minor league baseball has been decimated for other reasons besides this, but this is kind of getting at what the commissioner wants to do, I think. But from a college standpoint, look at the draft only being 5 rounds now. Think about the guys that are going to come back, and there are going to be a lot of them. Even the juniors that were draft eligible. I know for Duke we have some sophomores and juniors, obviously, who are draft eligible. Those guys, the majority of them, will come back and be on campus next year. Duke's already signed another great recruiting class to come in for next season, so you've got this crop of freshmen who would have ended up getting drafted and gone on to start their professional career. Now these guys are also going to come on campus. So now you're going to have this influx of talent, which is a good problem to have, and you've got to, as a coach, somehow figure out how to get the roster down to 35 guys, and for an ACC series, get it down to 27 guys. Comes in is the seniors that come back count against your 35-man roster.
Correct.
From an ACC standpoint, let's say that one team has 10 seniors back. So that's 37 guys that they're allowed to play on a weekend series. And let's say that this other team only has 2 seniors back. So that's 29 guys on their roster. So now you're working with a roster that's got 37 guys versus 29 guys. And I think that's where the competitive balance issue is going to start to come into play, because you've got so much more talent on one side to work with versus less talent, so to speak, on the other side. I think that's the biggest underlying issue about the whole thing that no one's really talking about.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask you this: the statistics in the draft. They say 1 out of every 10 person that is drafted actually makes it to the major leagues. So for every 100, you can go 10 players. Why do you think that number is so low?
Yeah, it's a good question. I've never really thought a whole lot about it. I think it's just there's so much talent, and you've got to have that it factor. And look, it's hard. It's hard to make it to the big leagues. It's hard to play baseball. You could argue that playing baseball is one of the hardest things to do, to hit a round ball with a round bat. So it takes some talent. It takes some luck, and I think you've got to be healthy. You've got to be given some good opportunities, but you've also got to be able to do it. I think that a lot of guys, when they get to AA, to AAA, maybe the talent, maybe the pitching, maybe whatever it is, maybe it just becomes too tough for them, and some guys get burnt out. But they don't make it to the big leagues as a player. How many of those guys go on to make it to the big leagues as a coach or working in the front office as a general manager? I think the big leagues and be involved in the game than just playing. Sure, everyone wants to be a Hall of Famer. Everyone wants to get to the big leagues and have a great career, but it's just not going to work out for everybody.
Right, and I agree 100% with that. Now, there's currently 2, and I don't know if you knew this, before they go into this decrease in the number of minor league teams, and I think you're right, they are talking about by 40 teams, that there's currently 261 minor league baseball teams out there. That's 261, and if you look at the life of a minor league player, it's poverty. I mean, these guys don't make a lot of money. I think in AAA, the highest weekly salary is $700 a week. So because they're having to pay these guys minimum wage for some reason. But wouldn't it make more sense to maybe cut the rookie leagues out and maybe even the single, and maybe pay these AA and AAA guys a little bit more money so they live respectively?
Yeah, absolutely. And that is the downside of the minor league system. And I think there has been some talk in Congress about making it more uniform in terms of making minimum wage. And that's part of the commissioner's certain standards to make sure The players are treated to a certain standard. That's the good part about this. And I'm not denying that baseball players get treated like crap, and they need better facilities, better pay, better living accommodations on the road, better travel. I understand all that. But I also look at it from the community standpoint. How many communities in these small, in these single A, in these rookie leagues, how many of those teams identify themselves based on that baseball team? I can tell you that I know from experience there are so many communities where people will spend their last dollars on a ticket to a ball game just to come out and escape life for a little while. And that's what it is. It's an escape. It's a chance to relive your childhood, to forget about your worries. It's baseball. It's Americana. It's our national pastime. So from that standpoint, I think it's tough because that's what these communities are built on. They thrive on summer and baseball. And how many of these franchises, frankly, are creating jobs that would not otherwise be there for these people that might really need this income? Stuck in a hard place. It really is. I feel for the players, but I feel for the communities too. And I have a hard time. These communities that have had baseball for all these years, their franchise ripped away from them, and maybe they're going to have an independent league. We don't know how it's going to work out. I just think the way Major League Baseball is going about this, there's got to be a better way to do it. That's my 2 cents, right, wrong, or indifferent.
No, it's very. Hey, I'm with you. Now we're talking to Chris Edwards, play-by-play Duke University and women's basketball. Chris, well, a couple before fall sports begin back up. How much pressure, because you and I both know, we've both been involved with college sports, that 85% of a Division I's revenue that they make with the athletic department comes from the football program. I don't think that's any secret. So now with baseball, of course, the spring sports all being eliminated, how much pressure is there now for these athletic directors, presidents of these universities, because some of these athletic departments, from what I understand, are, potentially could lose their athletic departments because of this pandemic. So my question to you is, before I let you go, how much pressure is on these athletic directors to get these football the fall?
I think there is some pressure, and I think it varies from school to school. University presidents are thinking. I saw something the other day where the president of the University of Virginia was a little more cautious. I also read something where Notre Dame's athletic director said that he felt like the football players and the other fall athletes could be back on campus before the regular students. So I think it varies from school to school. But I think there is some pressure for football season, as you mentioned. I mean, football is what drives the ship. We all need football to be back. I try to be glass half full and look at this. I think that we will have some sort of college football. I don't know that it's going to start on time. I don't know that you're going to play a full season. You may just have a conference schedule and maybe one non-conference game. I don't know. I'm just kind of speculating and guessing. But I am under the impression that there is pressure, and that there's too much money at stake, not only from the athletic department as a whole, but think of the TV contracts that all these conferences have with these networks that they would forfeit. There's just too much money at stake. Whether or not you have fans or not, stands doesn't equate to a whole lot of your income in terms of the football program. It's more of the TV revenue, the merchandise, that sort of thing. So yeah, I think there is pressure. I hope we play football for my sake and for all the people that work in sports. I hope we're playing football because if there is no football in the fall, things are going to be a little dire. But I also look at this big picture too. If we don't have college football or college sports, I think we have bigger issues in the country than just.
Yeah, and that's my perspective too. And it's just amazing me that if you looked at this about a month ago, everybody, athletic departments, presidents, and everyone knows safety is the utmost important thing that we're talking about. here, but it just seems to me like listening from 1 month ago to now, it seems like their attitude is shifting more towards the financial than the safety part.
Yeah, maybe a little bit. Again, I think it varies school to. I don't think that they're going to put student athletes in harm's way because look, it's NFL where these NFL players or these NBA players or Major League Baseball players, they're paid athletes. No matter what you think in terms of college athletes and should they be paid, we don't need to go down that road. But these still are student athletes. They are still students first. They're not paid professionals, and you've got to look at first. And I've read some stuff recently where football could be one of the last sports to be able to come back because of how physical and how much contact there is in a football game. I don't know. I'm going to leave that to the members, but Larry, I really am that we have football back in the fall. Whether we start Labor Day weekend, whether we start in October, at this point, something is better than nothing, and I think we all need it back, whether it's from a financial standpoint or like we talked about with these minor league teams being an escape of the community. We need something that's going to give us an escape from whatever we're all doing now. Everyone's sitting at home. Everyone's trying to find something. We're games with a nice break. But we need something. We need something to take our mind off of how bad things are. And rather than later, just to give us a little bit of a reprieve so that we can take a step back and say, you know what, there is some hope, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and things are going to get better.
Well, Chris, so much. I want to thank you for joining us today on Frankly Speaking Sports. It's been a real pleasure, and stay safe, my friend.
You too, Larry.